Weddings are supposed to be loud, clinking glasses, off-key toasts, a grandma who thinks Sweet Caroline is still a banger. But this one? This one felt like a eulogy with better lighting. I stood near the back of the ballroom, barely in the frame of any family photos. Not that they asked me to be in them. In fact, I was mostly there because I'd helped pay for half of it. The venue? Rented in my name. The DJ? Booked with my deposit. But don't worry, that wasn't written anywhere. My name, much like my presence, was invisible unless someone needed Wi-Fi or a signature. My brother, Dr. Nathaniel Michael Monroe, was getting married. And everything from the flower arrangements to the signature cocktails screamed, "We have class now." Even the napkins were monogrammed. Meanwhile, I wore a department store suit that fit almost right and hadn't eaten since breakfast. That's when it happened. As guests trickled into the reception, my parents finally acknowledged me. Not with a hug. Not with a, "Thanks for all your help." No. My mother leaned in as if to offer a kind word. Her perfume was something floral and overpriced. Her voice? "I see. Your absence," she whispered, "is the best gift you could have given him." She smiled, like it was a compliment. Like she was doing me a favor. And then she walked off, arm in arm with my father, who didn't even look at me. I didn't react. Not with anger, not even a sigh. I just stood there, trying to remember if I'd missed some secret meeting where I'd committed a war crime against the family. Then again, it wasn't new. My entire life had been a long series of smaller whispers, quiet jabs at the dinner table, backhanded praise, missed birthdays, and group photos taken while I was working. But something about this moment, their smug little delivery, finally stuck. Like a pebble in the shoe you've been limping with for years and finally decide to yank off and hurl into the void. So I stayed through dinner. Ate my cold chicken marsala. Clapped when the best man cried. Even smiled when Nathaniel's new in-laws gave a toast that somehow mentioned their new favorite son. Subtle, right? Then I got up, walked to the coat rack, grabbed my things, and left without saying a word. Back at the house, well, my house, I sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on, and stared at the floor like it might offer answers. This house had been our family's for 20 years. But when the recession hit and things got tight, I was the one who refinanced it. My name was the only one on the paperwork now. I'd paid the mortgage every month. Quietly. While my parents redecorated and my brother took extended sabbaticals to find himself in Bali. I never asked them to leave. I never changed anything. I just kept the lights on. Literally. But that whisper? That damn whisper? It was the period at the end of a sentence I hadn't realized I'd been writing for years. So I got up, grabbed a duffel, and started packing. Not everything, just enough to say, "I'm done." A suitcase of clothes, a folder with the deed, my laptop, and an old photo of me and my grandpa fishing, the only person who ever looked at me like I mattered more than a bill or a backup plan. By 2 a.m. I was done. I walked through the house one last time, past the hallway with their vacation photos, the kitchen where my mom once told me, "You don't really need seconds, do you?" and the den where my dad always sat, waiting for someone to bring him something. And then I reached the front door. I paused. And just like that I opened it, stepped out, and shut it behind me. Not a slam. Not a dramatic exit. Just a soft, final click, like the end of a sentence. A punctuation mark on a life I was no longer part of. I used to think the coldness started in high school. Maybe at one of Nathaniel's big science fairs, where he unveiled a baking soda volcano and everyone acted like he'd split the atom. Meanwhile, I'd placed third in a statewide art competition, but my parents only asked if the trophy came with a scholarship. Spoiler, it didn't. So it didn't count. But the truth is, it started earlier. I was 7 when I first noticed it. Nathaniel got a telescope for Christmas, one of those sleek, professional-looking ones with adjustable lenses and a motorized mount. I got socks. Not the funny kind with dinosaurs or glow-in-the-dark aliens. Just socks. White. Multipack. On sale. And look, I'm not bitter about the socks. I wear socks. We all need socks. But it was the message. We thought of him. We remembered you existed. By 10, I'd learned that praise was reserved for straight A's, piano recitals, and mathlete trophies. And I wasn't terrible at school, I was just average. Solid B+ with the occasional A-. But that wasn't bragworthy. Not in our house. Not when your little brother was skipping grades and giving speeches in bow ties. I wasn't jealous, not then. I was just invisible. When Nathaniel got his driver's license, he got a hand-me-down car from my uncle. When I got mine, I was told, "You'll appreciate it more if you save up for it yourself." I rode my bike to my part-time job at the grocery store and saved for over a year. Bought a beat-up sedan with a dented door and no air conditioning. Still, I was proud of that car. My parents? They joked about it every time I parked it in the driveway. The junkyard called. They want their exhibit back. When I turned 18, I wasn't offered a dorm tour or a moving truck. I was told, "You're an adult now. Figure it out." So I did. I worked. I took night classes. I crashed on a roommate's couch until I could afford rent. I bought instant ramen by the case. I studied between shifts. Meanwhile, Nathaniel was touring Ivy League campuses and submitting essays with my mom hovering behind him, checking for typos like it was a matter of national security. When he got into Columbia, they hosted a backyard barbecue. When I got my first job offer at an HVAC repair company, my mom said, "That's fine. As long as you're not still doing that in 5 years." I wasn't allowed to be proud of anything. Not my promotion to team lead. Not the fact that I was working 60-hour weeks to cover bills and help them keep their home. My job was always temporary. In their eyes. A phase. Like acne. But the phase paid the mortgage. When Dad lost his job during the downsizing, I quietly took over the payments. I didn't wave it around or ask for a parade. I just did it, because they were my family. Because I thought that eventually, love was earned. It wasn't. They never missed a chance to tell the world how proud they were of their doctor's son. Meanwhile, I'd fix a furnace in the dead of winter, get home smelling like insulation foam, and hear them ask if I could just keep it down. Because Nathaniel was studying. Even when I put the house in my name, just to prevent foreclosure, they didn't say thank you. They didn't even ask how it worked. They assumed it was still theirs. That I was just the help. And maybe that's what stung the most. Not the comments. Not the birthday cards that arrived late. Not the empty seats at my trade school graduation. But the fact that when I did show up, when I did everything right, they looked past me like I wasn't even there. By the time the wedding rolled around, I had already accepted it. I wasn't going to be the son they bragged about. I wasn't going to be the golden child in family photos or group texts. I was just the guy who paid for the electricity. But that whisper at the reception? It wasn't just cruel. It was confirmation. They didn't want me around, not even as wallpaper. Not even to fill the seat of a table. So, I gave them exactly what they wanted. Absence. Here's the part that still gets me. I wasn't just the forgotten one. I was the foundation they stood on, and they still pretended I was the dirt beneath it. See, after Nathaniel floated through his undergrad on a cloud of recommendation letters and catered study groups, he hit a rough patch, post-grad. Translation? He realized real jobs required punctuality, and not every internship came with a corner office and kombucha tap. So where did he land? Back home. Naturally. But not to regroup. No, Nathaniel pivoted into what he called entrepreneurship. What did that look like? A podcast. About success. Recorded from the upstairs bedroom that I paid the utilities for. Every month, the bills had my name on them. Mortgage? Me. Water and internet? Me. They never even asked? One day I came home from work, and the modem had been upgraded. Not paid for, just upgraded. Apparently, Nathaniel needed higher upload speeds for his weekly 3-hour rants about optimizing productivity. My mom defended him like he was inventing a cure for time itself. He's trying, honey. Let him focus. You know how creative types are. Creative? He was reading motivational tweets and regurgitating them in a deeper voice. One episode was literally titled, "Wake Up Earlier If You Want to Win." That man woke up at 11. But somehow, I was the one not doing enough. I remember one afternoon, I'd just finished rewiring an entire building, covered in insulation, blistered hands, smelling like burnt plastic, and I walked through the door only to hear my mom say, "Sure, don't slam. Nathaniel's recording?" Right. God forbid my real job disturbed the fantasy podcast of the family heir. And yet I kept paying. Not because I was a doormat, though it felt like it sometimes, but because I thought that maybe, just maybe, they'd see it. See me. Even when I got promoted to lead tech, brought in new clients, and earned my first real bonus, they barely blinked. When I bought a used truck for work, an actual necessity, my dad asked if I was overcompensating for something. But when Nathaniel bought a fake plant for his background setup, my mom posted it to Facebook with the caption, "My baby's building an empire." Empire? The only thing he built was a pyramid scheme in podcast form. I tried once, to talk to my dad about it. Said I felt taken for granted. That I was doing my best to keep things afloat. He nodded, paused, then said, "Well, you're the responsible one. That's your role. Nathaniel's different. Different." Like that word explained everything. Like I'd been born a calculator, and he was a damn Fabergé. By the time wedding prep started, the lines were already drawn. I wasn't asked to give a toast. I wasn't included in the wedding group chat. Not even in the list for tux measurements. When I asked Mom about it, she just blinked and said, "Oh, we figured you wouldn't want to be involved in something so formal." Right. As if I'd feel uncomfortable around catered shrimp and calligraphy. Like I didn't eat in break rooms with duct-taped chairs and half-working vending machines every day. Then came the guest list. Apparently I was welcome to attend, but not expected to speak. Like some ex-in-law they were legally required to acknowledge. But you know what I did? I still booked the DJ. Still paid the deposit on the venue because their credit was shot and I didn't want to see their name on a collections letter again. Still made sure there were 2 extra waiters, because I knew someone would forget gluten-free options. And I did it quietly. Because I thought, this is what family does. You don't always get credit, but you show up. Turns out, showing up only matters when you arrive wearing a white coat or holding a TED Talk clicker. I was just a backup generator, useful when the lights went out, but otherwise ignored. And even generators eventually burn out. A week before the wedding, I got a text from my mom. No greeting. No emoji. Just, "Your seat is table 14. Near the back. Hope that's okay." 14. Out of 15. Now, I'm not saying I expected to be at the main table, clinking champagne glasses with the bridal party. But sitting next to my second cousin's gluten-intolerant husband and a kid who thought iPads were chewable? That felt intentional. I didn't even reply. Just stared at the screen, then slowly set my phone down like it might bite me. A minute later, it buzzed again. "We weren't sure you'd want to be in any photos, so we didn't include you on the list. Just enjoy the evening." Enjoy the evening. Like this was some networking mixer and not my brother's wedding. They hadn't asked if I wanted to give a toast. Hadn't invited me to the rehearsal dinner. Hell, even the group chat, had quietly become wedding party only. I was family. But not the kind that matched the aesthetic. Even the invitations had been a masterpiece of passive exclusion. My name wasn't on the family RSVP list. Just a blank envelope hand-delivered with a scribbled, "Hope you can make it," on the flap. Not even inside. On the flap. It was like they were afraid to commit the ink. Meanwhile, Nathaniel got the full treatment. He and his fiancée, who I'll give credit, was at least polite in an HR-approved way, were the stars of every conversation. "Did you see the engagement shoot? She's designing her own dress. They're thinking of doing a double honeymoon, Bali and Paris." Cool. I was thinking of taking a day off to fix my transmission and maybe, if I got crazy, hitting up a diner with free refills. My dad, who once called Valentine's Day a scam for chumps, was suddenly an expert in floral arrangements. My mom was ordering practice centerpieces to test the vibe. I watched from the sidelines, like a janitor stuck cleaning a set he wasn't allowed to act on. The final straw? The family photo plan. I found out through my aunt, bless her Facebook overposting soul, that there was a scheduled shoot for the Monroe legacy. Apparently, it was a generational shot, grandparents, parents, children. Everyone dressed in blue and ivory. No one told me. When I called my mom to ask, she paused, then, in the fakest surprised voice I've ever heard, said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd be available. You're always so busy." Busy. As in, working to keep your lights on? I wasn't even angry anymore. Just tired. Like I'd been playing a game where the rules kept changing and the scoreboard was rigged to blink. You lose, no matter how hard I tried. So I made a decision. If I was going to be treated like a ghost, I'd stop acting like a living one. No more. Maybe they'll change. No more. I'm just here to support. No more shrinking myself into silence just to keep the peace. I picked up my phone, declined the photo invite with a thumbs up emoji, and bought the plainest black suit I could find. It didn't match the blue and ivory palette. It wasn't tailored or branded. But it fit. And more importantly, it was mine. The night before the wedding, I ironed it, packed it into the same bag I'd eventually walk out with, and stared at it hanging by the door like it was the armor of someone finally done begging to be seen. Let them whisper. Let them plan around me. I wasn't part of the show anymore. And soon, I wouldn't be part of the stage either. The wedding venue looked like something out of a magazine. String lights. Glass walls. Table settings so delicate I was scared to breathe near them. A violinist played something elegant in the background, probably Vivaldi, or whatever sounds expensive to the kind of people who say, expensive, in a whisper. I arrived 5 minutes before the ceremony, wearing my plain black suit. No boutonniere. No fancy pocket square. No one greeted me. I walked in like a guest who'd accidentally stumbled in from the parking lot, except I'd helped pay for the parking lot. Table 14, as promised, was back by the emergency exit. Near the kitchen, actually. So close that I could smell when someone overcooked the salmon. I shared my table with 2 small children eating goldfish crackers, an elderly cousin who thought I was the coat guy, and an empty seat that was later filled by a server on break. Perfect. I stayed silent through the vows. Clapped politely. Didn't even roll my eyes when Nathaniel got choked up while thanking everyone who made this possible. My mom audibly sniffled at that, like he just solved world peace. I didn't expect a thank you. I didn't expect a toast. But what I didn't expect was that moment. During the reception, while people mingled and posed in photo booths with cardboard mustaches, I stood quietly by the edge of the dance floor, nursing a drink I didn't really want. That's when they approached me. My parents. Mom on the left, Dad on the right, like they were bookends to a memory I didn't want to reread. She leaned in first, her fake pearl necklace catching the light like a warning sign. "Your absence," she whispered, "is the best gift you could have given him." She even smiled after she said it. That tiny smirk. Like she'd rehearsed the line in her head and decided it was clever. Like I'd finally done something useful, by not existing. And my dad? He didn't say a word. Just nodded in silent agreement. They walked off without waiting for a reply. Off to sip wine and tell everyone how proud they were of their real son. I didn't chase after them. Didn't cause a scene. Didn't even blink. Instead, I placed my untouched drink on the nearest table, adjusted my tie, and turned toward the exit. No one noticed. No one stopped me. I could have been a waiter finishing his shift. When I got home, I didn't cry. Didn't rage. I just sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall, trying to remember the last time I felt like this place, this house, was mine. They'd lived here for years. I'd kept it afloat for years. But it never felt like mine. Not really. Until now. I opened my laptop, logged into the portal I'd bookmarked months ago, the one marked just in case, and pulled up the listing. House for sale. Quiet neighborhood. Recently renovated. Perfect for a fresh start. I clicked publish. Then I packed. Not with the fury of someone storming out, but with the calm of someone finally done walking in circles. I folded my clothes, took down the fishing photo of me and Grandpa, zipped my duffel and placed it by the door. The house was dark. Silent. They wouldn't be back until morning, after all the wedding cleanup and family selfies and champagne toasts. That suited me just fine. I walked through each room once more. Past the kitchen with the fridge I restocked. Past the living room where I'd installed the ceiling fan Dad still thought magically fixed itself. And finally, past the hallway where every photo was of Nathaniel's milestones. None of mine. At the door I hesitated. Just a second. Then I reached for the knob, opened it, and walked through. And finally, I shut it behind me. Not with anger. Not with drama. Just one soft click. The kind of sound that doesn't echo, because it doesn't need to. It speaks for itself. I woke up in a quiet motel room with mustard-colored curtains and the faint smell of someone else's microwave popcorn. Not glamorous, but clean. And more importantly, mine for now. No banging on the door. No passive-aggressive breakfast smells wafting from a kitchen I stocked. No distant footsteps of people who only remembered me when the sink leaked or the router blinked red. Just silence. Until my phone lit up like Times Square on New Year's. Missed calls. Texts. Even a couple of voicemails. All from the same three names, Mom, Dad, and, for flavor, Nathaniel. I didn't open any of them right away. I just stared at the notifications piling up. The sudden urgency. The desperation written in all caps. Where are you? Call me now. We came home and the lock. Please tell me this is a mistake. This is not funny. Your mother is crying. That one made me laugh. Not because I'm heartless, but because I couldn't remember the last time she cried for anything that didn't involve Nathaniel running out of quinoa or a seam ripping in her favorite cardigan. But let's rewind a second. You're probably wondering, how could I just sell the house they were living in? Simple. Because it was never theirs. Years ago, when they were drowning in debt and the bank was sharpening its claws, I refinanced the mortgage under my name. They couldn't qualify, bad credit, worse income, and a general air of financial oops. But I could. I was the one with the full-time job. The stable income. The paperwork. The moment I signed, the house became mine. Legally, completely, quietly. They knew it. Sort of. But I guess they thought it was honorary. Like I'd just hold on to it the way you'd hold someone's drink at a party, until they were ready to take it back. Except I never agreed to that. I paid every month. I fixed what broke. I handled the taxes. I even paid for lawn care when my dad's bad knee magically flared up around mowing season. I didn't ask for rent. Didn't hang it over their heads. Didn't even redecorate, even though my mom's taste leaned heavily toward yard sale meets early 2000s Pinterest board. But I kept the deed. Because something deep in me, even back then, knew I needed an exit plan. And after the wedding? That whisper? It became more than a plan. It became a timeline. So 2 weeks before the big day, while everyone was arguing about cake fillings and centerpiece heights, I called a real estate agent I trusted. Quietly. She'd seen it all, kids kicked out, old folks scammed by their own. I told her my story. She didn't judge. Just asked, "You sure you're ready?" I said, "I've been ready since I was 15. By the time the wedding rolled around, the paperwork was done. The listing was scheduled. The new buyers? A retired couple downsizing from a bigger house and thrilled about the price. I even left them the kitchen island my dad swore he built. With these hands, he didn't. I did. When I clicked publish that night and zipped my bag, I didn't feel angry. I felt free. And now? Well, they were the ones feeling things. Panic. Confusion. Betrayal. I imagined them fumbling with their keys, wondering why the front door wouldn't open. Then noticing the sign planted neatly in the yard, sold. Then the letter on the counter from the real estate agency, addressed to me, confirming the move-out deadline. It wasn't revenge. It was just, finally using my power. They spent years ignoring my presence. So I gave them exactly what they wanted. My absence. But this time, it came with consequences. And a legally binding contract. By noon, I had 36 missed calls, 17 texts, and one video message titled, "You went too far." I didn't open it. Instead, I made coffee with a tiny hotel machine that tasted like it brewed regret. I sipped it slow, let the steam hit my face, and listened to the quiet hum of the air conditioner. No shouting. No guilt trips. Just peace. Until the messages piled up again. "You can't just sell the house. This is illegal. Think of your mother. Where are we supposed to go?" That last one made me pause. Not out of guilt, but because it was the first time in years they'd phrased a sentence that didn't assume I'd already fixed everything. The first time they admitted, "We need you." Not "we appreciate you." Not "we see you." Just, "We need something from you again." For years, I was the one expected to drop everything, fix the water heater, cover the electric bill, show up for a family emergency that usually turned out to be Nathaniel forgetting to order takeout. I was always available. Always reachable. Always the one who had to understand. Now suddenly, they needed to understand. Nathaniel, naturally, cracked first. He sent a voice message, and I'll admit, I played it out loud just to hear the desperation in high definition. "Dude! What the hell? You seriously sold the house? Our house? You didn't even talk to us. You just bailed? What kind of petty crap is this?" A long pause. Then the guilt bomb. "Do you realize what you've done to Mom? She's been crying all morning." "Dad's? I don't know, he won't talk to anyone. He said you've always been ungrateful." Ungrateful. That word always had a special place in our family's vocabulary. It was their favorite go-to whenever I tried to set a boundary. The magic spell that turned my silence into a character flaw. Ungrateful? Let's do a recap. I took over the mortgage. I paid every bill for years. I let them live rent-free in my house. I paid for Nathaniel's wedding venue because their credit score made lenders burst out laughing. And now that I walked away, I was the problem? The irony wasn't even subtle anymore. It was neon lit and doing cartwheels in the driveway. Then came a message from my mom, an email, of course. She always turned to long-form guilt when the group chat didn't get a reaction. "We didn't know you felt so left out. You never said anything." Right. Because any time I tried to say something, it was dismissed with, "Don't be dramatic. You're too sensitive. Can't you just be happy for your brother?" I remembered one Thanksgiving, maybe 4 years ago, when I finally snapped after being seated next to the trash can again. I said, "Why am I always the one no one notices?" My dad chuckled and said, "Because you're the one we can count on." That moment stuck with me longer than any insult. They didn't see me as someone with feelings. Just someone with function. The dishwasher. The light switch. There when needed, invisible when not. Her email ended with, "We were harder on you because we believed in you. Nathaniel needed more support." Translation? He got cake. I got crumbs, because I looked like I could survive. Then came the big twist. A voicemail. From Dad. His voice started calm. Calculated. Like he was talking to a customer service rep and didn't want to lose his refund. "I don't know what you think you're proving with this stunt," he said. "But it's not too late to fix this. We can talk. Get things straightened out. Come back. Maybe we can work something out with the buyers." Buyers? There were no buyers now. The house was sold. The mailbox had their names scraped off. The forwarding address form was already submitted. The only thing left for them was a clean sidewalk and a "Don't forget this belongs to someone else now" letter from the real estate agent. But what got me most, the ending. Just remember, you're still part of this family. Whether you like it or not. For a second, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like a line from a badly written movie. Whether I like it or not? Let me be clear, I didn't like it. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel bad about that. I didn't feel like fixing it. Didn't feel like explaining myself. Didn't feel like handing them another lifeline wrapped in politeness. Instead, I looked out the motel window, saw the rusted soda machine blinking 12 o'clock like a broken time machine, and whispered something I hadn't said out loud since I was a teenager. No. I'm not part of that family anymore. Not in the way they meant. A week later, I stood in front of the new place. Smaller, sure. No fireplace. No inherited memories clinging to the walls like stubborn wallpaper. But it was mine. The paperwork said so. And every inch of it felt like oxygen after a lifetime of second-hand smoke. There was no dramatic soundtrack, no slow-motion moment as I unlocked the front door. Just a quiet click, and a new beginning. Inside, I set down my single duffel bag and turned on the lights. No family portraits. No hand-me-down recliner stained with indifference. Just space. And peace. That night, I got one last message from Nathaniel. A real gem. Hope you're happy. You burned the bridge. Mom's been sick over this. Dad says he doesn't even want to talk to you anymore. They might have to move in with Aunt Rachel now. She's pissed. This was so selfish, dude. Selfish. Because after 28 years of being the one they leaned on, supported, dismissed, and forgotten, I finally said no? I didn't respond. Instead, I opened notes on my phone and typed out one sentence. Then I screenshotted it and sent it back to him, to the whole family group chat, actually. First time I messaged in there in months. The message said, "Don't worry. I left the garage door remote in the kitchen drawer. Right under the list of everything I ever paid for. Good luck explaining that to Aunt Rachel." Then I muted the chat. I didn't wait for their reactions. I didn't care. Instead, I poured myself a cheap glass of wine, toasted the empty air, and whispered, "To my absence. The best gift I ever gave them. And the best gift I ever gave myself."